Hello Year 3 and welcome back to guided reading. So today is day 4 of your guided reading, which means you are on to the big question. So today we're going to be looking a little bit more in depth at one particular question, and you are going to write a few sentences using evidence from the text to explain your answer. Now, you all did a fantastic job last week. You really took on our advice and wrote lengthier answers, which is what we are looking for. But today I would want to see that you are using more than one point to argue your side of the question. So I will show you how to do that in the video, but first up we are going to do our do now. So let me share the screen with you. Okay, so you have got 5 events there and you need to put them in order. Now, first thing you would need to do is have the text in front of you. If you don't have it printed out, that's absolutely fine. We have it uploaded on your home learning worksheet, so just have a quick look through that. So you have got 5 events there from what you have read. Please write a number 1 and then pick out the last event, put that as number 5, and then fill in the middle ones that you have left. I'm going to go straight into it. Sorry if my voice has gone a bit crackly, my internet isn't great. I'm going to go straight into the answer, so make sure you pause that. I will be mute when that's you're ready to go. Number 1, you had the following events. Mrs. Collins carried a jar of water to table 2. The class complained about drawing Bill. Bill was too miserable to scowl at Mrs. Collins. Mrs. Clayton let himself be led to the middle of the room. 1 was actually the last event, which is Bill let himself be led to the middle of the room. The second event is Collins placed Bill on a chair, the comfortable wooden stool. Number 3, the class complained about drawing Bill because he has a smudge on his dress. Some of them have, I think, one person choose some gold. Okay, so our big question for today is, should Bill have let his classmates paint him? So there are 2 sides of this argument. You will either have yes, I think Bill should have let his classmates. Evidence for the points that I came up with, yes, he should have let them. No, he shouldn't have. But if you want, now's a really time to go through the text yourself and to find some clear for both sides of the argument. So you can do that now and then press play when you are ready for me to show you my ideas. So my first point for yes, he should have let them paint is it didn't really matter what he said, and I've got evidence from the text here. The day would just keep sailing in its own way, so he might as well let them. He's already had the run-in with Malcolm. He's already had the unfairness teacher choosing the boys to pick up the table, the handwriting incident. So this is just an incident Bill's very irritating and frustrating. That's 1 point. If you really think about it, all Bill had to do in the art lesson was sit comfortably. Again, that is a phrase taken directly from the text. On a wooden chair and be painted, which isn't really that difficult. You have to sit there, and I mean, and then lastly, I'm being a bit mean here, but if I was going to go for the side of the argument that he should have let them paint, I could say, well, if he was going to make a fuss about not being painted, it would have just drawn more attention to him, and that's probably the thing wanted in this very annoying day. So those are my 3 points. I'd love if you found any more of your own, but if not, you're more than welcome to use my point. And now I'm going to go through, no, he shouldn't have let them. So my first point was the classmates didn't enjoy painting him and as shown by how they all complained. So for instance, one of they didn't have the colour to paint the smudges on his dress, one complained that the buttons, sorry, were too fiddly, one complained about the freckles. So if they didn't enjoy painting him and they were going to be that ungrateful, then he probably shouldn't have let them paint him in the first place. But perhaps you can also argue that Bill wasn't to know that they were going to be so ungrateful. My next point is Bill was miserable, and we know that he looked defeated by the end of the drawing session. So it didn't really put him in a good position. If it ended up with him feeling like that, perhaps it wasn't the best thing to have let them do. And then my last point was, if you remember, Bill is very grubby at the moment and his dress is covered in smudges, which is probably not an ideal, meaning perfect, condition for something to be painted. So perhaps he could have used that as an argument to say, no, you shouldn't paint me because I look terrible or because I'm really dirty. So if you were finding it tricky to think of your own points, you can scribble down some of mine now. So pause the video if you need some extra time. But as always, I'm going to go through some sentence starters and vocabulary that you could use in your writing today. Okay, so sentence starters. So the first thing I want you to do is obviously tell me whether you agree or disagree with the big question. So you can either agree and say, yes, Bill should have let them paint, or no, I disagree, Bill shouldn't have let them paint. But you can start with things like, in my opinion, I think, or believe, agree, disagree. I am of the opinion that Bill should or shouldn't have let them paint. So you've got some really nice ways to start your sentences there. So again, pause the video and just make a note of which one you would like to use. Once you have decided which side of the argument you're on, you can then start going into your evidence. You can use sentence starters such as I think this, or I know this, because, or as, because those two conjunctions tell us why. So I know as a reader of your answer that you are going to start telling me the reasons why you think so. And what I really want to see is evidence from the text, which you all did a really great job of last time, but remember this time I'd like to see more than one point used. So once you know which side of the argument you're going to go for and how you're going to start your answer, you can then, when you come to moving on to your next point, use the following word. So you can use additionally and talk about your next point. My next point is, or just the word next, furthermore. All of those words tell me that you are going to give me more evidence. And then in your writing, conjunctions are always a great thing to use. You can use and, because, even if you want to really challenge yourself, year 3, is if you want to give the other side of the argument before you come to your own opinion, you can say however, or on the other hand, and then tell me the other side of the argument. And at the end, write a concluding sentence saying, looking at both parts of the argument, I or disagree, and then giving your final answer. I would really challenge those, find this a little bit not simple, but they know, or they're very sure on their point. It would be a really good challenge to try and argue for the other point as well before you come up with your own opinion. So what I'm going to do now is switch my camera over and show you how I would write mine. And this will give you an idea of using more than one point. So as always, I have got my big question written up for me. I have written, should Bill have let his classmates paint him? Now, I went for the agree side of the argument last time, so I'm going to go for the I disagree this time. So I'm going to start with I, capital, because I'm talking about myself, disagree. I disagree that, and I'm going to use the title of my question to write my first sentence with. I disagree that Bill, capital for Bill, because this is his name, should, I wonder if you remember, it's the rhyme, if you will follow it, I've taught you, so O-U, duck, that tells me how to write should. I believe that Bill should have, silent E on the end, let his, and I can use the big question to write classmates. I know there's 2 S's, classmate. And again, really looking for that neat handwriting. I'm noticing huge handwriting at the moment. It needs to be slightly smaller. So have a look at how I'm writing. I disagree that Bill should have let his classmates paint him. Okay, it's my first sentence. And now I can write, I think this. Remember, what are those two conjunctions I said you could use for why, because, or as? So I think this because big elephants can't always understand smaller elephants. Because he was already having a bad day. So I'm going to say that he shouldn't put himself in the position of them just feeling miserable afterwards. So I think this because he was already having a terrible day. 2 R's in terrible. Is there anything missing on the end of terrible there? Silent E. I think this because he was already having a terrible day, and by the end of the art lesson, he felt, and what evidence from the text could I use here to show how Bill felt? I wrote from my notes, the word was defeated. So to show that I'm getting the evidence from the text, I'm going to use an inverted comma. Defeat, eat, it, and there's my full stop. So I know as a reader that that word came from the text. Now, that's a great first point. Now I'm going to use my second point, which is what I want to see in your writing today. So to show that I'm writing my next step, I'm going to write additionally, 2 L's and then a comma there. Additionally, and then I'm going to write, I think, the point about his classmates not being very grateful because they complained a lot. So additionally, his classmates weren't, contraction there with were and not, weren't very kind. Very kind as, I've used another conjunction there. Remember I said really good to keep the writing going, as they painted him. Additionally, his classmates weren't very kind as they painted him. I know this as they just complained the whole time. Or the entire time. The entire is probably a different word. Entire time. And then I can write something like Bill should be stuck up for himself. Should, oh, I know how to spell. No, you lucky duck. Should stuck. Now stuck has early and kicking her. Should have stuck up for himself. And can't see that now. Bill should have stuck up for himself and said no, as they were ungrateful. They were very ungrateful, actually, I think. Very nerve-wracking thing to do, to sit and be painted. Okay, so now I'm going to read my full answer there. Now you can see I've got maybe 3 or 4 sentences, and that's more than enough. But if you want to challenge yourself, you could then say, however, I could argue that actually Bill should have let them paint him, and then give the other side of the argument if I wanted to. I disagree that Bill should have let his classmates paint him. I think this because he was already having a terrible day. By the end of the art lesson, he felt defeated. I can go a little bit more detail there and say why. Maybe. Additionally, his classmates weren't very kind. They painted him. I know this as they just complained the entire time. And again, more evidence from the text I could have used here is actually get quotes from the story. What did those children complain about? Bill should have stuck up for himself and said no, as they were very Okay, so that is my answer to the big question. I'm looking forward to seeing your 2 points that you're going to use today. Again, absolutely use mine from the video if you need to. use evidence from the text, and handwriting year 3. Come on, we really want to give you guys pen licenses when we come back. So now's the perfect time to practice. So well done as always, and I look forward to seeing your answers uploaded on Cecil.